Chelsea now look like they have one of the best midfields in the Premier League. With Moises Caicedo and Romeo Lavia joining Enzo Fernandez, things are looking very promising in the middle of the park. However, there are some big questions being asked around the attacking line and our forwards. Do we have enough firepower to score goals? Do we have the personnel to last a full season and break into the top 4? Top 5 is now a Champions League place. Can we compete with the other teams that are going to be in and around that area? And that's what I want to do in this video. I want to dissect the teams that we're going to be competing against, look at their firepower and how it matches up to ours. But before I do so, guys, if you can like this video, give it a huge thumbs up. That's a massive help. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Leave a comment in the comment box. It's a massive help. I want to hear what you guys think. But without further ado, we need to get into Chelsea's attacking lineup and understand, is there enough there? Now, before I get into Chelsea's new attacking line and how we've revamped, I want to just take a quick glimpse at what we had last season and the kind of numbers and stats we were putting up. Have a look here. In total, Chelsea scored 38 goals last year. That is abysmal. That's a goal a game. Absolutely shocking for this talent of players. Goals from forwards, 21. Kai Havertz, our top scorer, with 7 goals in the Premier League. Raheem Sterling, 6. João Felix, who came in January, 4. Pulisic, 1. Aubameyang, 1. Madueke, 1. Broja, 1. I've focused on, players that do play in that attacking line. I've not included players in midfield, defenders. These are the attackers. These are the guys whose jobs are to score goals and assists. And look at the numbers that came from them. 21. Absolutely shocking. And now let's have a look at what we've got. Nicolas Jackson, Noni Madueke, Raheem Sterling, Nkunku, Broja and Mudryk. Now, of course, Broja, Madueke, Sterling, Mudryk, they were there last season, but they were such fringe players. It was pretty hard to include them in that list. I did include Madueke, I did include Broja, but at the end of the day, Broja was injured for long spells in the season. Raheem Sterling managed to get a few goals. Mudryk didn't get on the score sheet. Madueke cropped up with 1. But if you just look at how it's revamped, I'm liking the shape of it. I do like sort of the depth we've got. However, I do feel like we are in need of another addition. There's a lot of unproven talent here. And I do feel that these players need to hit the ground running. And I think the game against West Ham on the weekend is massively important. I need to see goals from some of these players. Of course, Broja hasn't come back from injury just yet. Nkunku is out. That's a big one. So if you just look at Nkunku, this attacking lineup minus Nkunku, it's not really filled with depth. There are still so many question marks. We really need to see the best out of Mudryk and Nicolas Jackson. These guys we're hoping are going to be in and amongst the goals, in and amongst the assists. But it looks okay. But I think the best way to sort of evaluate how strong we are in this department is to look at some of the other teams. So that's what I want to do now. I want to look at Manchester City, the title winners. Now, of course, it's pretty hard to compare any team in world football to Manchester City because they have the man, the myth, the legend, Erling Haaland. This guy came up with 36 Premier League goals last season, just in the Premier League. I mean, if you can get 2 players that do what he does, you've got a lot of depth, you've got a lot of strengths there. Phil Foden copped up with 11, surprised at that number, very impressed. Alvarez with 9, Mahrez with 5, Grealish with 5, Silva with 4, and Palmer, of course, didn't get a goal, but he looks lively this season. I think he's going to play a huge part in this Premier League season for City if he doesn't get sold. Now, you look at that, 94 goals last season. A lot of those goals did also come from Gundogan. KDB also scored a few. So, whilst Man City don't necessarily rely on goals from their forwards, they do get some goals from midfield. 71 just from those players is very impressive. That is massive. Compared to Chelsea's 38, that is 21 from forwards. That is a massive difference in goals from attack. And Man City, I think they have definitely got a lot of prolific goal scorers there. They've got players that are clinical. Chelsea do not have that. And whilst Man City do look good in that department, I must say, looking at that, an injury to Erling Haaland and it could be a bit of a difficult season in front of goal for Man City, because they don't really have that spread. I mean, Foden with 11 goals last season, that's a big chip in. Alvarez with 9, that's decent. But, should Haaland get injured, there could be question marks there. And there's a lot of talk about Chelsea potentially competing in the Premier League this season, challenging for the title. I mean, you need to have a nice spread of goals amongst your attackers there. And, with Haaland, of course, the standout, we don't have an Erling Haaland. We're pegging Nicolas Jackson to hopefully, if Nicolas Jackson can score half the goals Haaland scored last season, we could potentially compete. But until I see some evidence of that, it's unlikely we're going to compete, I would say. I think that is slightly a reality check when you look at those goals that come from those Manchester City forwards. Now, next up, Arsenal. Arsenal have got a lot of strength in depth. If you have a look at these goal scorers from forwards last year, 48 goals from their forwards in total, 88 goals in total. Odegaard, of course, was joint top scorer with Martinelli. Odegaard's a midfielder. I haven't wanted to include him in this. But Martinelli 15, Saka 14, Jesus 11, Nketiah 4, Nelson 3, Trossard 1, who obviously scored 7 for Brighton before he actually came to Arsenal. Of course, they've added Kai Havertz to bolster their attack. We know Kai Havertz very well. Top goal scorer last season for Chelsea, doesn't say much. I feel like Kai Havertz is going to be rotated a lot in this Arsenal team. I don't think he's going to have a big goal scoring season for them. But hey, remains to be seen. You would say in general, Arsenal have a lot of attacking options. If you add Kai Havertz to that, and the goals that they do get from Odegaard, Gabriel also can score goals. Saliba, they get good goals from corners. That's a pretty impressive attacking line. There's a lot of depth there. And if you compare that to Chelsea's, I think there's a lot of proven goal scorers there. Saka, Martinelli and Odegaard, of course, are their key goal scorers. But even just Saka and Martinelli on the wings, they're the kind of numbers we can only hope to emulate. Madueke, Sterling, Mudryk, these are the kind of numbers we're hoping that these players can achieve this season. But it's, of course, remains to be seen. But Arsenal are going to be, goal scorers, and it's tough to imagine that we're going to score as many goals as that attacking line. Next team I want to have a look at, third place, Manchester United. Now, Man United scored in total 58 goals last season. That's not that many. 36 of those came from their attackers. Rashford sort of sweeping up most of the goals there. 17 goals from Marcus Rashford. Then there's a big drop-off. Sancho got the next amount of goals with 6. Martial 6. Anthony 4. Garnacho 3. Of course, they've added Højlund, who they're hoping can be a big goal-scoring threat for them. But he's not necessarily been prolific as of yet. But if you look at that, Marcus Rashford is definitely carrying the brunt there. Of course, Man United get a lot of goals from Bruno Fernandes, Casemiro as well. They're hoping Mason Mount is gonna chip in with goals there. But of course, you look at that and you think that is probably not that strong when you look at the depth there. I think, an injury to Marcus Rashford, things don't go plan to Højlund. The goals just coming from Bruno Fernandes, that isn't really that inspiring. And I think that is potentially an attacking lineup that Chelsea could compete with. I think Chelsea's forwards should be aiming to score around that amount of goals as Man United did last season. At the very least, I think that should be the aspirations for Chelsea's attacking line this season. So Manchester United are potentially a team that we could catch if you look at the form that they hit last season. Now, Newcastle United, who finished 4th, absolutely smashed Aston Villa 5-1 on the weekend. This is a team with a lot of strength in depth when it comes to this attacking line. Look at their forwards. Goals from forwards last season, 48. 18 of those came from Callum Wilson, 11 from Miguel Almiron. Isak got 10, and Isak was injured for a long part of the season. Jacob Murphy chipped in with 4, Willock 3, Maximin wasn't really involved 1, Gordon, who came in January, 1, and has already gotten off to a blinding start to the season. Harvey Barnes they've added. Now this is an incredible attacking line. These players here can score goals, know how to put the ball in the back of the net. I'm a big fan of Harvey Barnes. Anthony Gordon looks great. Don't forget, they've got Joe Linton as well, who also was one of their top goal scorers last year. But even though he is a forward, he's a bit of a he plays in midfield. Didn't really include him in here. Maybe I should have actually. I think he chipped in with like 8 or 9 goals. There's so many goals in this Newcastle team. Not so many goals in this attacking line. And I don't think Chelsea quite have the firepower that Newcastle have up front. I think Manchester United is far more realistic in terms of goal output and potentially what we could achieve and what we could match. But looking at this Newcastle depth, Isak's already got off to a blinder. I mean, they're a bit lost of how they're going to play Isak and Callum Wilson. I know Isak can play on the inside, on the left, but this is a formidable attacking line, I must say. Very impressed with this Newcastle lineup. Obviously, adding Harvey Barnes is a big deal because he knows how to score goals. But yeah, Newcastle, very impressive attacking lineup for this season. And then I want to look at 5th place Liverpool. Now remember, 5th place is a Champions League spot this year. So if you look at that and you look at these top 5 teams, Liverpool being the last, these are the teams that we need to sort of emulate in terms of being prolific in front of goal and scoring goals. Now, Liverpool scored 75 goals last year. They were not shy in the goal department. 58 of those came from their attacking line. Salah bagged 19 last year, and that was reasonably poor season for him. Firmino, who has departed to Saudi Arabia, he's got 11 goals last year. I think he scored a hat-trick on the weekend for his new Saudi team, but that is a big loss in the goal department. Nunes, first season, 9 goals, considering, he missed a lot of chances, he had a lot of chances, to still score 9 is not bad. Jota, 7, injured for large parts of the season last year. I'm a big fan of Diogo Jota. They've got a great player there. Gakpo, 7 goals on his starting season. That's very, very impressive. Diaz, 4, quite underwhelming for him. Even Elliott chips in with 1. Of course, they do get goals from other areas in the park as well. Like Chelsea, their wing-backs have got a lot to say about that. Robertson and Trent, they can come up with goals and they definitely create a lot of goals. But if you look at that, and I looked at Liverpool on the weekend against Chelsea, and whilst they are lacking in midfield and Chelsea did a number on them, attacking-wise, they have got a lot of strength in depth. And I think that 75 goals, 58 from the forwards, is a number that we could only hope to achieve, I would say. With our current attacking lineup, again, I think Liverpool have probably got far more firepower than Chelsea do in their attacking lineup currently. Now, I'm not here to be pessimistic. I hope that Chelsea can get goals this season under Pochettino. It is going to be different. It's not going to be as abysmal as last season. I'm really hoping. I truly believe that. It's just that it's still quite shy. I still am seeing, not necessarily, it's not a proof of concept with Michael Mudryk, Nicolas Jackson and Noni Madueke. Whilst they are looking like promising talents, the goals are not quite there yet. I'm hoping that towards the end of the season that we do have players that are putting in these kind of numbers that we're seeing from some of these teams that finished in the top 5 last year. And I also think, with Olise not being able to secure his signature, I do feel like we need another attacker. With Nkunku injured, Broja still not really coming back, and I don't know how he fits into Pochettino's plans, if he does at all. The only players that we do know for sure that are part of the plans are Nicolas Jackson, Raheem Sterling, Michael Mudryk and Noni Madueke, I'm hoping. So I think that we are definitely in need of another player, whether it's Vlahovic from Juve, whether that Lukaku situation sorts itself out. I'm not sure if it's him or it's another player, another attack-minded 10 kind of player that we miss with losing Nkunku. So I think there's still a bit of work to be done in the transfer window to bolster this attacking line. Everything else is looking great. From the back to the front, I think we're looking good. Defensively, we look pretty stacked. Midfield, we're looking good at the moment with the new trio that we've got. And I just think this is the last area we need to address before we sort of get this campaign underway. But, playing Liverpool on the weekend is a difficult game. We created a lot of chances. We didn't put the ball in the back of the net. West Ham on the weekend, let's see, this tone could change. If I see a brace from Nicolas Jackson, if I see Madueke, Mudryk chip in with some goals, Raza come in with some goals, then I might change my tune. But until then, I am a bit concerned about Chelsea's form in front of goal. But guys, let me know what you think. How many goals do you think Chelsea can score this season? How many goals do you think our forwards can score this season? I want to hear your opinions. Like this video if you did like it. It's a huge help. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Prediction video is going to come against West Ham on the weekend. And yeah, let me know your thoughts. Until then, in a bit.